Hello, citizens of the verse. Attempts at bringing the bounty hunting experience to life in a space sim is as old as space sims themselves. I've played a number of games that have attempted tackling this genre, but the end result has always ended up falling short of what my expectations envisioned it to be. The mere mentioning of bounty hunting wells up images of a lone character that's akin to a futuristic version of the federal marshals of the Old West, who bravely travel out to the dingiest, darkest corners of the verse in pursuit of their target. They move with their own personal code of ethics and use all manner of weapons, gadgets, wit, and when all else fails, brute force to take down their man. A successful bounty hunter is going to need to combine all of the skills of an investigative detective, the instincts of a bloodhound, and the cunningness to be able to take down prey on their own terms. All too often, attempts at capturing this fantasy have been little more than a shallow afterthought tacked onto a game's list of options that have become a thin veneer used to obfuscate the recycling of the same gameplay mechanics over and over again. What Star Citizen is proposing is going to be far more in-depth and layered than anything that I've ever seen being done before with this genre. You can disseminate their intent from the various bits of information that's been blended into the lore, design docs, articles, and descriptions of the various gadgets and ships that they've already designed specifically for the bounty hunting profession. Now, I don't know what the first iteration of bounty hunting is going to actually be like, but I'm fairly certain that at this point we're only going to be getting a taste of what it is in its most basic form. I'd be surprised if there is anything more to it than being able to take missions that are accessed through the Moby Glass or taken from a singular quest giver, while the missions that are going to be presented might be randomized in various ways, but will appear as one of two kinds of mission types. One will have you hunting down a person who's already in a ship, or hunting down a person that'll be on foot. There's going to be unique mechanics involved in each of these cases, and it does make sense from a gameplay perspective for developers to first nail down those fundamentals and then expand upon it based on feedback from the community. So who issues these bounties? It seems that nearly anybody can post a bounty. This includes banks, insurance companies, local law enforcement, private individuals. Even the government itself is responsible for issuing a fair number of bounties. And eventually they're also going to be coming from players as well. Even the Xi'an have been known to post bounties, as in the case with the political dissident Suek Ath, who had made his way to UEE space looking for asylum. This was of course denied, and since the Xi'an could not pursue the criminal themselves, had to instead turn to the Advocacy and their team of bounty hunters to extradite the criminal back into Xi'an space. This quickly became a race against time to capture the escapee as he continued fleeing for the safety of Banu space and tried his hand at getting asylum there. It looks like the local law enforcement and bounty hunting guilds are in charge of actually sanctioning each of these issued bounties. It will be interesting to see how these two elements are going to be interacting with one another in the future. All bounties are validated by the Bounty and Capture Division of the UEE Advocacy and are subject to Advocacy and BHG rules. It's always advised to consult your local bounty hunting guild or law enforcement office for a complete list of available bounties. Some unscrupulous individuals in the past have tried and succeeded in bypassing the BHG and posting bounties that are not legitimate. Fake contracts have been used by criminals to lure bounty hunters into a trap, which is just another incentive to confirm every bounty with the guild before pursuing it, to protect against situations just like this one. It's also good practice to double check any bounties before confronting a fugitive, as bounties may have been cleared in the time it took for you to track them down. So how does a criminal clear his or her bounty? It would be damn inconvenient if a criminal could just simply clear their record just before they're about to be captured. Most likely be done through their Moby Glass, which they shouldn't have time to pull off while being pursued, and will require them to have to be within a certain proximity of a comm relay before they can make a connection and pay off the fine. In the future, you may have access to equipment that could also jam their comm channels. Another thing that can work to your advantage is that your ship will be able to travel faster than the network of information does in the Star Citizen universe. Depending on the circumstances, this can work both for and against you. In this instance, it can work for you. If the bounty was issued several systems away, then it's going to take some time before a criminal's attempt to clear their bounty is bounced from relay to relay and reaches the intended system, registers, and clears them of their wanted status. Meanwhile, your ship can travel at 0.2% the speed of light, which is significantly faster than the speed that information is sent at. Even if a runner gets a chance to use their Moby Glass and pays off their fine, you can still beat the clock, secure them, and have enough time to drop the criminal off and collect your reward before the warrant on their bounty actually clears. The dossier on potential bounties is going to come with a certain amount of information for you to start working with, which will include of course the perpetrator's name, the crimes they're wanted for, information on their modus operandi, and their current threat level. There's also going to be approach tips, which are tips on places for you to start looking for your quarry and suggestions on how you should handle approaching them. Additional information could include the type of ship they were last seen using, the system they were last spotted traveling through, or places they like to visit, known accomplices, favorite bars to hang out, and so on. Bounties are also going to have individual skills. For example, they mentioned a fugitive that was an ex-Murray Cup winner that recently jacked a 350R. So maybe a good tactic for catching him would be to try and catch him before he gets into a ship. The hot sheets report criminals that boast skills that have included computer hackers, political dissidents, ex-military. Essentially, criminals are going to come from every profession, every walk of life, and come in every shape, size, and species that you can imagine. Finding your prey is going to involve just as much investigative work as it will sweat and blood. Hunting them down is going to be a puzzle that you need to unravel, some of which are going to be much more complicated than others to figure out. To help, sometimes you can get additional information on a particular criminal from an information broker, if you're willing to pay out the extra credits, that is. Sometimes there are going to be more important things at stake other than just making money when it comes to capturing a fugitive. For instance, you're standing with a BHG for one thing. Failure may impact your reputation. It may end up being more important for you to keep that reputation intact rather than admitting defeat. Another thing is that some bounties will be guaranteed to have a certain item, weapon, or ship in their possession. It could be an item that would be very rare to come across or is highly desired by the player to acquire. Something like a Terravan shield, for instance. In that situation, paying the information broker's fee may be justifiable in the pursuit of gaining that particular rare item, since finding that fugitive represents a guaranteed way for you to get your hands on it. This purchased information will give more specifics on a certain person of interest that can include more up-to-date information on them, like a shot from a security cam that caught their image divulging their exact location and current look. It could even be as telling as providing you with a jump point location leading to a known hideout or a bar that they like to hang out in. Purchasing information could be looked at as a bit of a cheat, and could cut deeply into your profit margin, but could also end up being well worth it in the end. The act of hunting a criminal is going to incur a cost in terms of spent quantum fuel and wear on your ship. Purchasing information could expedite this process and save you a lot of lost time and a lot of lost operational overhead cost in the long run. It's a last resort to fall back on when all else has failed. Lately, there's been a very vocal movement within the guild who are calling to lower the requirements for membership. Their intention is to open up the guild to attract more members, their logic being that the more sanctioned bounty enforcers that are out there in the verse, the safer everyone else will be, by creating another level of law enforcement to help bring criminals to justice. To do this, they propose that a percentage of guild bounties be cleared for non-members. These pilots will need to register with the guild before attempting to enforce any of these bounties. If the pilot can collect on a specific number of these bounties, they can earn their way into the guild. This sounds like a very interesting way for casuals to get a feel for bounty hunting without having to commit to any kind of career path within it, or having to worry about your progress affecting your reputation within the guild. And this also promotes a certain feeling of accomplishment once you finally earned your membership. Currently, there are two ships that are specifically built for bounty hunting, the Avenger Stalker and the Cutlass Blue. The Super Hornet will also be retrofitted for bounty hunting by swapping out the back seat for a secure seat that is going to be capable of detaining a single prisoner within it. Other ships will be potentially retrofitted in the same way and used to haul prisoners back and forth from a run. I would expect to see more bounty hunting ships to be added to the roster sometime in the future, including some kind of pseudo-prison barge that would be capable of holding a large amount of fugitives and act as a base of operations that you can safely leave behind while you're off hunting a criminal down. I like how they're holding off on developing this option for the time being. As the scope of bounty hunting expands, so will the needs of such a ship. And for the time being, bounty hunting is going to need to mature sometime before the qualities of such a ship can be properly identified. So what purpose do bounty hunters fill? The UEE already has a military and police force, so what do they need with a bounty hunting branch as well? For one thing, UEE agents are barred from chasing fugitives into Banu Protectorate space. The same limitations could exist all over the verse, preventing military and police institutions from invading the sovereign rights of particular colonies, systems, and crossing the borders that exist between the UEE and other alien races. No such limitation exists for bounty hunters. Being technically civilians, they can go anywhere that a human fugitive can also go, and there's no stopping them from detaining somebody and escorting them back into UEE-controlled space. Although it bears repeating that cases can only be prosecuted by licensed guild members who are currently in good standing with the organization. The main reasoning behind the use of bounty hunters is now that the government has set its sights on the Vandal threat, there's a huge influx of people stepping in to enlist for the UEE military service. That's created a need for the civilian branch to pick up the slack and start helping to regulate criminal behavior by any means at their disposal. The BHG has expressed an interest in starting a mentorship program where more experienced bounty hunters would act as a mentor for new guild members to work with and learn from. The veterans would submit their names onto a board that a rookie could choose from and go on a mission with. This would be actual players acting as the mentor, teaching new players how the mechanics of bounty hunting works. This can promote the growth of a community among hunters and build connections between players that wouldn't otherwise exist. If people find that they like working together, they can exchange names on their friends list and continue going on missions together. Becoming a mentor might not be an entirely selfless act and could double as a way to fast-track their reputation and standing within the bounty hunting community. There are laws set aside by the UEE outlining what a bounty hunter can and cannot do if they wish to remain a licensed member of the organization. But there is also a set of ethics posed by the bounty hunting community to help establish guidelines for what they should and should not do. Their saying is the black and white is easy, we're here to help with the gray. The temptation to cast aside one's ethics in favor of taking down a particularly heinous criminal is going to be a constant struggle. The urge to go all bad lieutenant will always be looming in the back of one's head as the frustration caused by failing to find your target starts to stack up, especially if it's a target that slipped through your fingers on more than one occasion. The need to capture them slowly starts turning into a vendetta, then into an all-encompassing obsession, one that must be fulfilled at the cost of everything else. Exercising a certain amount of violence in the pursuit of a criminal is justified in each case, but the levels that are involved are not universally ethical. In one case, there is a slaver by the name of Sadia Kunseya, who has a known MO to dump and jump her cargo at the first sign of trouble, aka dumping her human cargo into space. She slipped past advocacy ships time and time again since they're required legally to give aid to people in this situation. Hunters are not bound by this law. When presented with a situation like this, it's going to be up to you to decide if you're going to keep pursuing your target or stop and lend humanitarian aid to those in need. To avoid such quandaries, it's advised to bring a medical ship along with you when going up against someone who's known to do things like this. They can take care of the rescue ops while you keep your focus on capturing the criminal. Another option would be to drop a beacon and create a mission for a rescue ship to come out there to pick up the survivors for you. Bounty hunting jobs are going to be fraught with moral dilemmas like this. But if you pay attention to the information that's been given to you ahead of time, you can properly prepare for most contingencies. No matter how well you plan ahead, the unexpected is still going to continue to rear its ugly head and present you with morally gray scenarios to contend with. How you respond is going to stick with you and affect your standing with the BHG, other hunters, and is going to leave a lasting mark on your reputation. It's also good to remember that keeping a bounty alive can often be the difference between you getting paid and spending a lot of time in an advocacy holding cell answering questions. So you not only have to worry about civilian casualties, you have to worry about yourself and the safety of the fugitive you're chasing. The information on bounty hunting has been so expansive that after tallying it all together, I realized I was going to have to break this video down into 2 parts. So I'm going to cut it here and make this the end of part 1. Part 2 is going to talk about the various aspects involved in chasing down a criminal, how to earn a lot of credits while bounty hunting, some more of my own theory crafting ideas, some info on what the new version of the Armistice Zone is going to be and how it's going to affect bounty hunting, healing, cold cases, trolling, dealing with checkpoints, and a bit about placing bounties on other players. Thank you for watching, I really do appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to be made aware of when new content is available, and leave a like if you enjoy what you see. It really helps the channel and gives you the ability to vote on what kind of content you'd like to see in the future. Thank you for the love and for all of your support, and I hope you'll come back and join me for the second installment in the bounty hunting series.